call the meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge.
There's a flag.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody. We'll get started here. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Weber,
Here.
Houston,
Here.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Here.
Sauter,
Here.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Next, we move to the agenda. Mike, do you have a motion to make?
I'd like to make a motion, we table the, what number is it, Mayor? Number 17.
17 of other business.
Until we have time to discuss it in a committee of the whole type setting,
Work session?
work session.
Okay, do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, can I do consent on that?
It is consent, even if it's amended.
Okay, so all in favor then? of
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so item number 17 will be taken off the agenda, and we'll be putting it on the next work session. Next, we move to the public comment. Girls from Buchanan, East Buchanan, do you guys want to come up and one at a time and tell us who you are and if there's something that we can help you with in terms of answering a question?
Do we need to approve the rest of the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No?
You did, it was all in favor, ayes.
Right.
Now it's public comment.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were just striking number 17.
Right. Oh, Councilmember O'Laughlin made a motion to amend and take that off.
Take that off, but
And accept the rest of
approve the
the
rest of the... Okay.
Tom is still
Hi.
on daylight savings.
Catch up, Tom.
Got it.
My name is Kaylee Gallery, and I was just wondering, like, how do you guys decide what goes on the agenda for each week, and how do you decide what you want to talk about at current meetings, what you want to move to the next one?
Good question.
That is a good question.
Well, generally speaking, we would have issues that come up through our department heads, that come up through other people in the city that are asking things. A lot of the, we try not to have something on the agenda if we have not discussed it in our work session first, if we think that there's a good discussion that's necessary for it. So if something comes up that we feel needs more discussion than we can have time for in a regular meeting, we'll move it to a work session. And then at the work session itself, we'll discuss things, and then we'll decide what's a good time for it to go on the agenda itself. Then what happens is the week before our meetings, I sit down with the city manager, and we talk about the agenda itself and what's on the agenda and what, if we need to move something or not move something or add something or et cetera. And then at that point,
And Susie,
oh, and Susie, of course, yeah.
city clerk.
We would never do it without Susie. So that's kind of how it goes. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. Catherine would love to sign for you.
I will get to that. What is the date?
Got a
The
good
11th.
pen this time, Catherine?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Maxine White. I was just wondering how you guys handle, like, people from the public having comments to you. Like, do you always talk about them in your meetings, or do you kind of talk about them privately and then solve them privately? Or dismiss them?
Do you mean if somebody contacts us outside of the meeting with an issue? If they called me, I would immediately go to the city manager, Matt, and I would tell him I've got this call or I've got this contact about this, and then we would decide whether it's something that needs to go to a department head or the proper way of handling it. If it's an issue that we feel is necessary to put on the agenda for council, then we would then do that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you
you.
then.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Brian, do you
Good
have
questions,
something
ladies.
in terms of the public comment portion?
Yeah, good evening.
What question do you have, Mr. Crawford?
Well, not a question, more of an update.
Oh.
actually, on a couple of active projects, some new information coming that we want to make you guys aware of. One is related to the 2nd Street Bridge over the Wapsipinicon River. We did receive notification from the contractor on that project that they are going to be starting work on that next week. So there'll be message boards that get installed at each end of the bridge this week to notify motorists ahead of that. That was part of the contract documents that you guys approved. We do have a pre-construction meeting coming up with city manager and staff on Wednesday, but I did want to make you aware, if you get any questions about that, that they'll start work on that bridge rehab project as soon as next Monday, the 18th. But again, the message boards will go in ahead of that. And the only other update I had for you was seating at the complex, and that's going to start this week as well, and that's kind of the final step for that project to get that project finalized out.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, next we move to, there's nothing else anybody has in terms of the public comments, right? Okay, then we move to the consent agenda. So I need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the minutes of the February 26, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the financials. I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Again, this is all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the bank reconciliation, which is for information only. Does anybody have any questions with regard to anything from the bank reconciliation? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the revenues and expenses to date. Again, this is information only. Does anybody have any questions with respect to the revenues and expenses to date? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the hearings and ordinances. The first one is item number 9. This is our final reading of the ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Independence with regard to the public health and safety section involving discharging weapons. First, I need a motion to approve the final reading of an ordinance that amends the provisions pertaining to public health and safety discharging weapons.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We've had a lot of discussion about this on numerous dates. The particular motion that's before you, council, is merely to add in, previously we had a section that was vague as to whether it required the request to be renewed annually if somebody wanted to use it for hunting. This changes that and makes it a requirement that they renew it annually. We also have added another section that indicates that if there's a hunting party that's seeking permission, each member of the party must submit their own written request with respect to being approved. So those are the changes to the ordinance itself. Again, this is the final reading on this. Is there further discussion with regard to this?
So this is when we vote yes if we want the same ordinance?
But if you vote yes on this, you're voting to amend the ordinance with the changes here. If you vote no on it, it'll stay as it was originally.
And this includes discharging firearms within city limits.
It does. It does. So a yes vote means you're in favor of the ordinance in a final reading, and it would then be put into your books as the ordinance. And if you vote no on it, then that means that we keep the existing ordinance exactly how it is, and there's no issue about, there's no description about annual renewal or the hunting parties having to each seek their permission individually. So roll call vote on that.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
No.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Passes 6-1. Next, we move to item number 10, which is a motion to approve the resolution that approves the Buchanan County Housing Study and authorizes the mayor to sign the resolution.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. We talked about this in the work session. This is the housing study, which has been completed. Has anybody had any questions or changes? It looked pretty thorough to me, but if anybody thought of anything else that we're missing or something else that you're questioning the changes on. The housing study is extremely important for grants. Anytime we want to do grants, they require that we have a current housing study, and our current housing study is out of date. So this is important to us that we have this study.
Mayor, was that a 5-year term? Did we think about every 5 years we need to make sure that we have?
That's correct. Every 5 years.
And there's no fee for this, is that right?
We got it for free.
There's a charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about,
You want to come up to the microphone?
sorry. Yes, this is a little over $17,000. We're able to get a USDA grant to pay for half of that, around $8,000. You guys provided a grant towards that as well. and then we also got a Mid-American Energy grant, and then our organization, Economic Development, covered the rest of it. So, yeah, so it's definitely needed within the county, and hopefully, when we have to do it again, we'll be able to apply for that USDA grant again.
And the other cities in the county also contributed as well, right?
No, it was through our organization.
Okay.
So we went out knowing that Independence was the largest community and would receive probably the most benefit from it. We did ask you if you'd be willing to provide some grant money towards it, and you very graciously did.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion with regard to this.
I'd like, this is eye-opening. It's highly skewed toward the above 50 age group, so I'd like to see anything we could do to try to encourage families with children to either move here or remain here. And
We did that a number of years ago when we were looking at building the high school. I know that was affordable housing. I mean, we looked at all these things along with that. So I think that's something that every time we look at things, we should kind of keep that in mind.
And the other thing that's of interest to some of you is that we do have the child care market study that's also been completed, and it's in the process of finalization. And once that comes out, it'll come before council as well. And that's got some very eye-opening statistics in it as well that I think all of you will find interesting. Okay, further discussion? If not, then this is to be a roll call vote for the approval of it.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prusiner,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
yes,
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 11. I need a motion to approve a resolution to assess property owners under Chapter 136 sidewalk regulations for failure to comply and to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so this is two properties. The charge is, to each one of them is $58.53. One of them is 611 3rd Avenue Northeast, the other is 513 4th Street Southwest. Any discussion, with regard to this? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote then.
Moore,
Yes.
Prusiner,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
yes,
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 12, which is, need a motion to approve a resolution that endorses the STBG funding program for the 2028 STBG Street Rehabilitation Project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is the Surface Transportation Block Grant, that's the STBG. The applications are open till March 15th. We removed the one for 2025, and then 2026 is our
First Street West.
our First Street West project, so this is, coming down the road. But it's important that we try to move this forward with the application, because that allows us to have the opportunity to get other grants and stuff to assist
So
us.
this group of streets that's included in the packet tonight was what was planned for 2027. Since we moved 2025 back, 2025 got moved to 2027, because that's our next opportunity, because 2026 is programmed for First Street West, and that's not something we can really move because of the money that comes with that. This would then just kind of domino effect, everything moves back.
Other discussion with regard to this? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote then.
Prusiner,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
yes,
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to other business. I think the best way to do this is to go alphabetical order in terms of the designees. So I'd like a motion to designate the John Evers Agency as the broker for the city moving forward. So I need that motion from somebody, please.
so moved,
Second.
Okay, then discussion with regard to this. So we have two broker agencies. We've got John Evers, and then we also have the current one, which is PDCM Insurance. The cost is not going to make a difference to us one way or the other. It's just a matter of whether we want to switch the agency at this time. Discussions, I know we've talked a little bit about, well, we really didn't talk about it because they answered questions for us, but this would be an opportunity for any of you that has comments or suggestions about it to talk about it now before we go to a vote.
Us council people really don't deal with the ICAP. Susie does, so I was wondering if, without throwing her under the bus, if we can ask her opinion about it.
Maybe rather than putting Susie on the spot, could I
Matt?
put Matt on the spot? And
I'm bigger, I'll slow the bus before Susie gets thrown in front. What I would say is, I asked Susie to pull how many actual insurance claims that we've had over the last 5 years. 2019, we had 2. In 2020, we had 1. In 2021, we had 6. In 2022, we had 13. And then in 2023, we had 10. Those are actual claims. Those are not the interactions we have when we add a vehicle to a policy or when we do something like that. Those would be on top of these numbers. I can tell you in the year and a half, or the little over a year that I've been here, we've had PDCM the entire time I've been here, and I've had 0 complaints, 0 concerns. They've always been responsive. They've always helped. At the end of the day, it's up to this council to suggest or to select who they believe is the best one for the city.
Based on my experience, we had John prior to these people, and there were no complaints. In fact, every year we got money back based on the payback from ICAP. And so I was very pleased with that. I was very, very prompt and very attentive. And I would encourage the rest of my colleagues to vote for the local agent, John Evers.
Aren't they both local?
they're both,
They run a spot out to
Okay, so
Lynn.
they're local, okay.
I would echo what Councilman O'Laughlin has said as well about Mr. Evers and his independent agent status, and then also the possibility of being able to move on with Smith D&L in the future, should there be changes with Mr. Evers.
So
The
why-
one thing that I'm going to say, just 1 second, Kathy.
Okay.
When we talk about local and we talk about investment into the community and things like that, I feel very strongly about Mr. Evers and his family and his business and what they've done previously. And I can't remember who made the comment when we were talking before, again, with working with them in the past and not having any issues at that time and things being handled well too. So I guess I would support in that direction as well.
I guess my question is, and this, I wasn't in on the beginning of this, so my question is, the other night when they were talking about that Donley is going to be their backup, but yet they don't have the right credentials at this point. So how can we consider somebody when they don't have the credentialing that they need to do that?
their agency does, yeah.
And
Smith D&L.
John does. John personally
Smith
does.
D&L does 9 other ICAP agencies, 9 other ICAP,
So why aren't we working with Smith D&L? if
because
they're
they worked together with John, and John was selected
Okay.
as the agent from town to go.
I'm confused by that, but.
Well, they get together and decide, which of them is going to go for the school, which for the county, which for,
Okay.
To my question, PDCM, they are located in town,
They have
but
an-
technically,
They have an
we're a
office.
satellite office.
Correct.
So therefore, the funds go to the mother company eventually. And so in a way, if we go with John, we're promoting business within our community.
Actually,
Or not,
to clarify, we pay ICAP.
right.
This is just the broker to where if we have something, we reach out to them
Right.
and start the process, but we pay ICAP.
Correct.
So,
And,
just for clarification.
And PDCM is a member of the Chamber of Commerce here.
They are a member of the chamber?
Well, that's what their letter here says, that says that
Okay.
they submitted a thing. It says they've been in independence since 1997. They continue to be a local independent agency with direct carrier access to over 60 national and regional markets, including bonding capabilities. They're an Independence Chamber member and supporter. They've donated over $3,000 to local events and nonprofits in the last 3 years. And then they've got other Independence clients specifically that are identified on here as well. I'm not going to read all their names. but
Yeah, I saw it.
When it comes to locals in an office, most of the contacts are going to be through phone anyway, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you did a okay job, but I asked, but I didn't really get the answer I wanted. So I'm going to ask again. When we have an issue with ICAP, is it you that deals with them, or is it Susie, or is it Katie at the police department, or who is it?
Typically, the three of us are all involved in that when there's an insurance claim.
So I guess I'm wondering, the ones that work directly with them, I don't have to work with them. You know, we're just going to vote yes or no on either one, but I guess if I was going to hire somebody, or somebody's going to hire somebody for me, and I had the choice, I'd pick them myself, rather than having somebody else. I feel like we're picking for them.
That was kind of my thoughts too, Deb, when I saw this. And I wasn't quite sure why this got brought up. I was confused. Was there a problem?
There was no problem. There was a council member that requested that we bring forward an RFP to consider our insurance services for the city. So then back in December at the work session, I brought forward an example RFP. The
Okay.
council had that to review and look through. And then we put the RFP process, we started that process. We put the RFP out, we came through it, and this is the culmination of that whole process.
I think that's good that we did that.
No, I think so
Yeah.
too. I think that when we go back to the pieces of paper, and bullet point by bullet point, but I guess one of the things that I like to see us do is investing in those that are invested in our community and realizing that PDCM has a local office. I can appreciate that they're leasing in another building, but we also have someone who's invested in buildings that's owned on our main street that we're doing and paying property taxes and things like that, and I think it's obviously good to support them, so that's why I brought those.
And I still have a hard time understanding exactly why we switched from one to the other, because I thought it was something that they couldn't provide us, and this company could. Is that
At the time,
true thing?
At the time, he couldn't, but Smith D&L could have. There was a discrepancy in the conversations that our previous city manager had with Smith D&L and what he brought forth to the council as far as their ability to provide the bonding through travelers and another component of the insurance. And so we went with PDCM rather than a different one from Mr. Evers.
So now you're saying Donley again, when you're saying Evers is the one that would be, so we're working with two different ones now?
You get two for the price of one. Evers and Donnelly's will assist him in any endeavor he needs.
Well, and just talking with people who actually deal with them, I think they're quite satisfied with who we currently have, which is something that Deb, I think, is trying to ascertain.
From my perspective, I don't really have a good comparison because I've not worked with Mr. Evers directly. I can just speak to PDCM, and what I can tell you from PDCM is we've never had any issues with responsiveness or anything.
If you
like that,
speak
and I
with
would
people
expect-
from Waterloo, you may find some differences.
Okay, well, again, I can only speak to what
I
I've
reached out to several.
Understood. I have no doubt that Mr. Evers will be responsive as well. It's just, what's the best for the city overall?
Councilman Laughlin, I got a question for you on this. The reason we went away from them originally 5 years ago, I believe you stated, was because at that time they were not able to provide everything that the city needed.
Here's what we needed.
Is that what you stated?
We found out that our city manager was not, we didn't have professional conduct or coverage in case they made an error. So that, professional conduct was
Public officials?
public officials.
Public officials bond.
Public officials bond.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a public officials bond, what it does is if
Indemnifies the.
well, no, if Susie were to get sued, or Matt were to get sued, or I would get sued, or one of you would get sued for something that we did here, that's the coverage that would be available for us, that would provide us our defense and indemnification as long as we were within the course and scope of what our duties were as a city. So it's really important coverage to us.
And we didn't used to have it?
No, we didn't have it at that time. We discovered that through our city manager, and they wanted travelers. Well, Mr. Evers at that time did not have travelers, and so PDCM did, but Smith D&L had travelers. I wasn't made aware of it until after the fact, when I spoke with another agent with that company, that they had had a conversation with the city manager and told him that they had the ability to provide that. We weren't aware of that, so.
So now with John, we can have that.
Yeah.
So there's no issue with you promoting like a family connection here, Mike, is there?
No,
Okay, just want to make sure that that's not,
I'm not even related to John Evers.
well, I know, but Donley you are, I know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little confused now too, that when we had the presentations last week, there was no mention of Smith D&L.
I
Yeah,
thought
there was
John,
vague.
I think there was,
yeah,
if I recall correctly.
yeah.
You were
As a
here.
secondary.
No, just last week,
Yeah.
just Monday night, last
Were
Monday,
you here last week?
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, he was gone.
2 weeks ago.
I must not have been here.
Well, that happens occasionally, Tom.
But, okay, so with the presentation for John, Smith D&L was mentioned. Really? Okay.
I think that it was mentioned during the discussion when one of the questions came up, but I think that the packet itself that was submitted initially did not list them. Although
Maybe that's what I'm,
Although the addendum sheet that we just got from him, from John, and also from PDCM did have that information that Smith D&L would be available to assist if John wasn't available.
So no matter how we vote on this in a year from now, we could bring this back up again?
We could end up in another RFP process again, depending on what happens. I mean,
But they're not locked into a year or 2 years or?
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, the motion's to approve John.
And it is seconded.
Yes,
It is
I have a
seconded.
motion and a
Yeah, I had to
second.
start the discussion somewhere, so that's where we started the discussion.
I'll call for the question.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote, but just so it's clear. So if there are 4 people that vote yes, then John would be appointed the new agent effective after the policy renewal, which is coming up right now, and you cannot change during the renewal period itself.
which, to be clear, is the 1st of April. We believe it's going to be after that when we would be able to move.
Sure.
We just can't, because we're in the renewal process, we can't change.
Okay,
change
if there are
before
not,
it's the middle.
if there are not 4 votes, then what we would do is we'd need a new motion to approve the second company with a second, and then we would then vote on that, okay? So everybody knows what they're voting on. Roll call vote, please.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
No.
Weber,
yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 6-1. Then next we move to the item number 14, which is the engineering services. And again, we'll because we have 5 people, we'll do it in alphabetical order. So to start the discussion, I need a motion to designate Anderson Bogert as the selected engineer for this work, and to authorize the city manager to engage the selected firm to establish an engineering services agreement and a cost to be brought back to council for approval. So that's the motion. So I need someone to make the motion and second it so we can have the discussion on it and then go
So
forward.
moved. I'll second it.
Okay, so, just to, we went through all 5 presentations last week. Just as a summary from me, and somebody can correct me if they think that I'm wrong, we were looking for, one of the things, the RFP was we were looking for options in terms of the best way to handle the services. And Anderson Bogart's option C was that they wanted a new relief line down the existing 5th Street to the river. That was their suggestion. Crawford Engineering had 4 alternatives, or they had 4. Their 4th alternative was the one that they were recommending, which is site grading with one or 2 more detention facilities with a controlled release to the existing public storm sewer. That's my summary of what their recommendation was. Fair Graham, they were proposing the detention areas same as what Crawford was doing, but they also wanted a proposed storm sewer on 4th Street to the river. So rather than just having the water come to the controlled release to that area, they would actually have it come out to the river at that point. The 4th one was Venstra and Kim. They were talking about storm sewers going north of 6th or 7th Street out to the river because it's a shorter distance, and then also a rock check dams further up the railroad itself to try to deter some of the water. Willett Hoffman was the fifth one, and they did not have any specific recommendations. They wanted to study it further. So that's the information with respect to the options. So I guess what we're looking for is, in terms of discussion, which of these options do we feel is best for the city? And then, based upon the options, I'm sure any one of the engineering firms can do what we want them to do if there was a different change or something. But generally, what we're looking for, based upon the RFPs, is the recommendations in terms of the best way to solve this problem in the short term over there at the Independent Premium Foods. Okay, further discussion then.
So my first question is, and sorry, there was some talk about the person who owns the farm ground behind there having to be part of the solution.
Well,
Have we approached this person about that?
they wouldn't have to be part of the solution if we're doing something that involves just coming south.
Okay.
The property, where the railroad track is behind the property itself is city-owned property. So we don't need anybody's permission to do that.
Okay.
We're not far enough into the actual design process to approach a property owner and say, hey, we need permission to be on your property.
So we don't need to have that ahead of time?
No.
Okay, I guess that was my concern. I would hate to approve something and then find out they don't want it.
Although Mrs. Ahrens called me months ago on this particular issue.
Okay.
And it's one of the reasons why we went out and started investigating as well. So they're on board in terms of doing something. We haven't had discussions further about their involvement in it because I don't know that it's going to be necessary for them to be involved in it depending upon which of these alternatives we select.
Will any of the alternatives of the four that actually have an alternative, will any of those impact their problem more than others? The retention pond part?
No.
Is that going to make a difference for them?
No, because it'll just be, the water would be on site of the facility itself on their, sorry.
Independence fee.
I said that the city owned the property to the north of that, and that's actually wrong. It's actually Independent Premium Food that owns it.
Okay. So everything that's going to be done would be on their property that they own. So it
Everything in terms of the detention.
But not,
Yeah, everything in terms of the detention basins would be, but as soon as we start, whether we're creating a new relief line or whether we're adding a storm sewer or anything we're doing, once it gets to the property line itself and it gets into the street and our sewer system, then that's our property, city property. That's no longer Independent Premium's food property, if that makes sense to you.
The reason we're doing this is because as part of the grant that they received, we're responsible for $300,000.
right.
So just help them solve a problem that's going to allow them to get USDA approval.
Right, I get all that. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be best for that whole area, not just
Well, I think that's going to be part of the
because
process.
that's part of what we agreed to for that reason, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Right,
That we were going to help that whole neighborhood out?
I think that's going to be part of the process as we move forward, though, too. When we get to design, we're going to look at what options make sense for that whole area. I know there was proposals that were put together as part of this initial thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the end result is going to be. You know, if an engineering firm says, hey, we want to run a main down, or a stormwater line down 4th Street, and then we find out that there's difficulties in doing so, whether that's utilities or whatever, and the cost starts growing, well, then it makes sense to start looking at other options and see if that is the best option, the best path forward. But we're not really that far in the process yet. The whole thing for this process is just to figure out who the council would like to start moving forward with, to then move to the next step of negotiating the engineering services agreement and the scope of services and bring that back for final approval, and then we'll start design.
Matt, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but is there any one of, I'm not talking about engineering firms, but in terms of the process itself, is there any?
That's what I was just going to ask. Which one
Is there
would
any
you favor?
process here that you think is the best for us under the circumstances, since you're more heavily involved in it than we are?
So what I would tell you is, based on the stormwater projects that I've worked on throughout my career, I think a combination of detention basin plus some sort of offloading is what's going to be the best. I don't know what that's going to look like right now. It could be as simple as a smaller, for lack of a better term, a smaller orifice coming out of the detention basin that slows it down so that it's not filling those lines so quickly. That could be a solution. But if we start running the numbers, if the engineers start working on that and they start running the calculations on that and the math just simply doesn't work, then you got to figure out where you can take that water to make the most impact. Then you got to start looking at cost. So, but I think it's going to take some sort of combination of that. I also think working with IPF is going to be important too, to make sure that whatever we're doing is not, is beneficial to them and isn't going to cause them problems with their plan.
And didn't we have one engineer that talked more about doing those than anyone?
About doing the
Retention and getting it away?
retention and,
That was Fairgraham is the one that proposed
Yeah.
that. But I'm sure, I'm not picking one for you guys. That's up to you, but
But that's just what I'm saying.
anybody,
That's how I
any
read
of
it
these
in this.
engineers can do any of the processes that we come up with, I'm sure.
I think we would have a successful project no matter which of these engineering firms you chose.
So I guess, okay. How do we know, just grabbing a name and picking it, we have a budget, a very strict budget. We need to stay within that budget. How do we know that
I
we'll
don't
stick
think-
within that budget?
We don't.
That's where I'm struggling.
Understood. We know that we can get the engineering design piece of it done, for sure. Pretty confident that 300,000 was not going to get it designed and built, whatever solution we came up with.
And to take a little bit of the pressure off of Matt here on this, if you look at the bids
I didn't know there was.
from last week, there was one that was significantly lower than the others. And I talked with Matt, and he said they actually did according to the RFP, what was required of the RFP. The others added services to their estimate,
They gave additional information about a future.
additional information
Right,
that
so-
wasn't requested.
So the
But
go ahead.
So we're not
So-
comparing apples to apples, is what you're telling me, Tom?
Right.
You are, but.
in a way,
Okay.
yes.
So first I want to be clear, we can't select based purely on price. There needs to be other qualifying factors, which I think you guys talking about potential options is part of that. What I would say is when I did the RFP, what I asked for in the RFP was a dollar amount to do the design and the plan preparation. That was it. I didn't ask for construction services. I didn't ask for boring. I didn't ask for any of those other things that go into down the road of doing that, with the intention that when we get to that point, we would add on those services or do what we need to in order to move through that process. So I think what Tom and I talked about, Councilmember Houston and I talked about earlier today, was related to when you look at those proposals, you've got to look into the details. Because every one of them listed, this is what the engineering services for the design piece is. So in order to try to get as close to an apples-to-apples comparison in regards to that particular category, you got to get into the details and look at that. You can't just look at the total cost that they listed.
Because remember, if one of them just has, for example, a detention basin and another one has a detention basin plus something else, then of course their design is going to be more expensive than the one that just has the detention basin. So, it just makes sense.
But as Matt was telling me, that there's so many questions we don't know about this thing that, let's say that this firm added the additional costs, or the other three that did have the additional costs, that's not to say that they're 100% accurate on their estimate by any means. There could be, as Matt said, some additional factors with projects that we're not aware of, and it'll drive the cost up.
Remember that engineering is not just design. There's all kinds of other things that the engineer is responsible for as far as the project itself goes. So when you're looking at the RFP just asked for design, but several of the proposals they gave you the design number, but then they also gave you other numbers for construction and for other surveying and other types of calculations that would be part of the overall engineering itself. So when we ultimately decide on a price for the engineer, it's not just going to be design, it's going to be all these other categories itself.
Sure.
Some of which we already know numbers from some of the other engineers, but it wasn't something that was asked in the RFP itself.
But I think it's also important to remember that what was put in these responses in the RFP, those were estimates. When we get to the point where we're actually solidifying the scope and we're going through that price could change. So I think it's important to remember that even if you approve one based what you believe the price is going to be, that price may not be what it is when it comes back after we go through the entire scope, discovery, everything else that's involved with nailing that down so that we have a full-on designing project.
So given these are all reputable people, and the price could change on any of them based on what we actually decide to do in the end, what is it that we really should be honing in on right now?
I would suggest that you look at prior experience, that you look at other relationships, that you look at other projects that they've done related that are similar to this one, as well as the potential proposal.
Go with the previous question on the insurance coverage, local, that seemed to be an important factor with many of the members here, and that may be an important consideration with this as well.
I'd make a motion then that we move.
Oh, hold on.
There's already a motion and second on the floor.
The question I have after looking through all of the different ones and through the discussion that was here, none of these numbers are really true. They're all estimations.
Correct.
Now, a problem I have that I've seen happen, not only here, but it happens all over with projects, is, I'll use our airport as a prime example. When we did that, we came in, okay, we're having this done, this done, this done, and this done, checked all the boxes, so we thought. All of a sudden, we're putting in sod that we knew had to be replaced, and now all of a sudden it's an added expenditure. I think somebody needs to be held liable for logical things that are supposed to be there and is not included when bids are put out and stuff. And so I think we need to tie that in, whoever we choose, we need to have a little bit stronger wording that if it was an oversight.
I think that's
engineer or
what
something-
Matt is trying to do here with this RFP,
Right.
is trying to make the process more structured so that when whoever we decide on, then that next step, then we go, am I correct, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason for doing an RFP process like this, is to make it as open and transparent as possible so that this body can have the conversations they need to establish some level of comfort
Right.
before they
Yeah.
move forward with selecting a prospective engineer.
Okay.
When we get to the point where we do the engineering services agreement, that's the point where we need to be,
Where we
make sure we're
buckle
paying
in and
attention
make
to the
sure
details.
everything's there.
Correct, making sure that we're paying attention to the scope of work, to the details, and to what all's included in that agreement.
So the motion on the floor is what?
Anderson Bogart. Okay, so if we're done with the discussion itself, so a yes vote on this would be to approve Anderson Bogart, and if there's not 4 votes in favor of them, then at that point, we would have another candidate that we would talk with, that we would then have a motion with regard to, and then we would have the same kind of vote until we reach a majority of council. 4 votes.
So can I just really quick ask, what would be a good selling point for this one that you, as a person who's done this before, would say, this guy or this group has a really good
What I will tell you,
on-
what I will tell you is that every one of the respondents that we got is highly qualified to do the work. I don't think you're going to make a wrong choice. It's just a question of which one is this body more comfortable with and more interested in working with.
And
I
obviously,
know I didn't answer the question, that was on purpose.
and obviously, everybody knows Crawford Engineering. They've done a lot of projects here in the city, but both Anderson Bogart and Fair Graham, Anderson Bogart, they're from Cedar Rapids, but they do have, their engineer is close by as well. You know, I forgot where she said.
Manchester.
Well, Manchester is where Fair Graham is, but I believe that, tell me again where you live? Raleigh. Yeah, she's in Raleigh.
My kids go to school here.
Right. So, and both Anderson Bogart, Crawford Engineering, and Fair Graham all said that they had done projects for the City of Independence in the past involving the water system type of work. So, anyway, yes,
So we have 5 of them.
yes.
Let's say we go through all 5 and none of the 5 get 4 votes.
I don't think you're
Okay,
going to make
do we
it.
circle back around?
I don't think you're gonna
and go
make it
into further
that far.
discussion?
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but what if?
Well, then we wouldn't have anybody that's been approved for it, and we'd have to go back to the drawing board and see about it. There wouldn't be anybody that's been accepted.
Okay.
There's options I can walk you through if we get to that point.
Okay.
Okay, so, everybody know,
We can vote yes on
know.
more than one, if it gets to that, right? Or no on more than one?
Vote however you'd like to on each
Yeah,
motion,
yeah, you're not locked in. Just because you vote yes on one or no on one, that doesn't mean you can't do it differently with regard to the other one. Okay, so,
But if you get 4 votes, that's done.
But once
We
one
go
gets
to
approved,
nobody
then
else.
you're done, right?
once 4 have approved it, then that's the engineer that will be
Okay.
working out. Okay, so for Anderson Bogart, so this is a roll call vote then.
Jensen,
No.
Weber,
No.
Houston,
No.
Hannah,
No.
Moore,
No.
Pursader,
No.
O'Laughlin.
No.
Okay, so then, the nay, why don't we just stay with the alphabetical order? Is that okay with everybody? Or
Yeah.
does somebody want to propose somebody? Okay, stay with the, okay, so Crawford would be up next, so a yes vote, oh, sorry, I need a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. So a yes, 4 yes votes here, and Crawford would be the one that would be appointed. If there's not 4 yes votes, then we would move to the next one, which would be Fair Graham, okay? A roll call vote on this?
No discussion?
Do you want to have further discussion?
The only discussion I have is Crawford has done a lot of projects with the community. They know where our site is down the road when it comes to our streets and sewer and everything. And it is local. And I strongly am in favor of, when everything is possible and everything is equal, to invest the money locally and which allows the money to roll over and turn within the community, and that the money doesn't leave the community as fast. That's my favor of being in favor of Crawford.
Anybody else? Roll call vote then.
Houston,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Pursader,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Okay, passes 6-0. Sorry, 6-1. So Crawford would be the one that would be appointed then. Okay, next we move to item number 15 on the agenda, which is the airport liability insurance renewal. I need a motion to approve the 2024 airport operators liability insurance quotation and to authorize the city manager to sign the necessary paperwork.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, this is our annual airport liability policy renewal. I think the agent is D&L Smith, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Smith DNL.
Sorry, same thing to me. So any discussion with regard to this? Any questions about it?
Do we need to look at any other options?
I don't, well, it's up to you guys if you want to do that. This is,
I'm just saying, if we've
If you
looked
want-
at other options, maybe
if
we
you
need
want
to
to-
look at everything.
If you want to do that, I would suggest that you approve this renewal this evening, and then we could look at other options moving forward. I would not hold this renewal up with that in mind.
Did you ask for the motion?
Yes, I have a motion and a second.
okay, is there any other discussion with regard to this? Okay, so the quote says the quote is going down
Right.
from $6,300 approximately to to just under $6,000, and then the
Terrorism
the
component.
terrorism is down from 634 to 599. So, and this is something that we adequately budgeted in when we did the budget itself. So we have pricing, we have funds to pay this within that amount. So, anybody else have any discussion with regard to this?
So the city pays for the airport's insurance? The airport doesn't pay for their own insurance?
We own the airport.
Well, I get that, but they have their own budget, don't they, out there?
Which comes from city
But it's
money.
This comes from
city.
City money?
That'd be like if the sewer
I get
department
it. I get it. It's just that it seems like people are always asking me, why are we paying things for the airport all the time? I get that a
There's a
lot.
city.
I know, I
But
get
any
it.
money the
but-
airport makes also comes to the city as well,
It's a
so.
municipal airport.
Okay.
Kathy, daylight savings time.
Okay, let's go roll call vote on
I do
this
think we
then,
ought to put it
please.
out there for bids, like Kathy said. I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, if we're
If anybody
looking
else is
at
interested.
everything, might as well look at everything. Not that I have any problem with anybody, I just, if we're looking at things and people go, well, why did you look at that one and not that one?
Yep.
Yeah, This is up for renewal now, so we need to move
Okay.
forward on it, but we can certainly do that in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
idea.
How far in the future?
As soon as this one's done.
So this
Sometime
is,
in the next 12 months.
this isn't for a year.
Yeah, it won't be that long.
Okay, roll call vote.
Weber,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to the Catalyst Grant Application Revision. I need a motion to, do you want me to read that motion that way?
That's what he put on the memo.
Okay, I need a motion to withdraw the application for the Catalyst Grant due to financial concerns. So first, I need a motion itself and a
Second.
second. Okay, so discussion with regard to this. As you will recall, we talked about this at the work session. The issues that were discussed dealt with a slight change because there were 3 addresses that moved to 2 addresses, and then there was other discussion about the fact that this was coming up quicker than we had anticipated, because originally, when we did the pre-application, we thought that the application itself wouldn't come until April or May, and that we were being asked to whether we had the $100,000 that we would need for our share of the grant at this point in time. And the discussion basically was that we didn't have the money, and that's why staff has recommended that we withdraw the application. So discussion with regard to that.
It's unfortunate. I'd love to see anything we can do for improvements, but money is money, and
I'd say come back next year and ask for it.
yeah.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, then that would be then the roll call vote. And again, what you're voting on is to approve a request to withdraw the application that we previously, the pre-application that we previously agreed to, okay? Roll call vote then.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0 then, and it's to withdraw the application. We next move to item number 18, since we're skipping 17. I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign a parking agreement with BKC Properties LLC, the owner of the building that houses Kohl's Ace Hardware and the residential units above.
So move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. As part of our Catalyst, that's a Catalyst grant?
It's a,
Downtown upper story.
Okay, the downtown upper story grant with regard to that, one of our agreements with that was that we would provide some in-kind money or some other type of money consideration, and one of the things that we're doing is we're proposing parking spaces that would be over by St. John's in that parking lot there, and we would designate a total of 10 parking spaces. And the calculations are in your worksheet. I don't have them right in front of me, but in terms of how we calculated the amount of money, is it like $75,000 or something?
It's $5,000 per parking stall, so $50,000.
Yes, Mayor, it ends up being close
But-
to
but
more
total-
than the 50, yeah.
Yeah, total value is showing 75,574.
None of those
Total
spots,
value.
apartments are rentable right now, are they?
Not yet.
So they won't be taking those spots until he actually has them rented?
That's correct.
So if he rents out one unit, we give him 2 spots, we're not going to tie 10 up.
No, it's one
Or one
parking
spot.
spot per unit.
Okay, so we're only going to tie up 1 spot unless all the apartments are rented, because that's going to put a bind on, I'm sorry, but the St. John's Church and whoever else uses that parking lot in the vicinity. If you got 10 spots and nobody's living in those apartments and you can't park there.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councilman Hammond, because if they only have 5 rented out,
You should only have
we
5.
should only have 5 designated at that time. We will allot 10 spots, so how does that fall into play on the grant map? We will allot 10 spots, but designated based on what Hannah was saying, if I read her correctly, based on how many are actually rented out, they're designated at that time, or does that
I
affect
think,
the grant?
well, okay, so a couple things. For one, I think this agreement's already been made. This is just a formality to issue this agreement and do this. I don't think we can go back on that and now say that we don't want to give those spots. That's already been agreed to.
I'm not saying
that either.
I'm not saying not give them. That's not what I said at all.
But you
What I'm
kind of
saying is
are when you're saying that
we're
we're only gonna
allotting
allow-
the 10.
I understand, but you kind of are saying that when you say we're only going to allow 5 if there's 5 rented.
Right.
We
Well,
can't, I don't think we can do that.
And
We can't base it on
And
occupancy.
sorry, rented is probably the wrong word. Completed, constructed, and available for rent. The person's not, we'll give an occupancy permit once it's done, but, our agreement is that they'll have 10 parking spaces over there, 1 for each of the units.
Correct.
And if there's nobody, if a unit is vacant because it hasn't been rented or somebody's moved out and somebody else hasn't moved in yet, then there isn't a spot that's designated for that particular unit. We'll designate spots for each of the 10 units. That's how we'll do it.
Well, how will those
Aren't
be
we-
marked, just so
that's-
that those aren't used by,
Signage.
That's what I was
Signage.
going to say. When you talked to them, Susie, didn't they say that we needed to put some sort of signage on them indicating that they were reserved?
So when I talked with City Attorney Herman, I was talking to him about what I envision is kind of like a 10 spots in a row, like from here to here, and arrows, like somehow saying between these signs
Clearly
are
designated.
reserved, yes. Now, I have not shown this to RSM, who is the grant administrator. They just said we need to have a formal parking agreement with them. Basically, if there's no formal agreement, it delays the city getting refunded for this grant.
Sure.
So-
Sure. Okay, well, I was just wondering because that was a valid.
But it sounds to me like we're going to give them all 10, whether there's anybody there or not.
They're going to be signed that way. That's why I wanted to make that clear. I mean, if we're going to put signage up that says that they are reserved for those spots, I don't know how you can go out and change that when somebody isn't renting I mean,
Say if there's 10 available,
Now
cover the
comes,
you
sign
should have 10 available spots that are,
If you got 10 apartments that aren't rented, and you got 10 spots are taken up, no one should be parked there.
now comes that question.
And so you go in that parking lot
Is-
and,
Is our police officers going to enforce that if there's people parking in there, or what? Or is that a civil case, or what, where does that fall into play?
It's a city park, from the information provided to us as council members, I read it'll be taken care of by the city, because it is a city entity, a city parking lot. We will move the snow, we will take care of the striping, we will all that. So yes, that would fall underneath the police municipality as well then, as far as policing, just like a city lot.
But I think that the owner of the property,
We own the property.
no, the owner of the building that has tenants in it is going to, if they're noticing that that one tenant is taking up 3 spaces, then they're going to be the one that's going to be trying to do something about that. That won't be us.
It could be, I just read from the agreement with striping and maintenance and snow removal.
That's
Didn't
all.
say
how soon is this going to happen?
policing.
They're moving along. I think that, I can't remember what,
But this fall, Brad said that he helped.
Fall, yeah. they get the elevator in yet, or are they still working on that?
I didn't know there was an elevator going in.
Yeah, they're putting an elevator in, and it's a major,
so where will these spots be? Because I know it's going to affect businesses one way or
Mass,
another.
yeah.
well, they'll be,
Hopefully the northwest end of,
To my knowledge, it has not been planned
Delineated.
on where we're designating these spots. We just know the general area, but we haven't said these 10 spots, this is
It
it.
just says
So,
directly across the street from Second Street on
Because if
the
you
south end of the line.
drive by there during the day, it's full.
You're saying that parking lot?
The St. John's parking lot?
No.
It's not St. John's
No, it's
parking
not
lot,
St.
it's just
John's.
used as St. John's parking lot.
It's a parking lot.
But aren't, the 10 spaces aren't at the parking lot by St. John's?
Yes,
yes,
they are.
that is where they will be, but it is a city-owned lot.
Okay.
We just call it St.
Now, is RSM, is that Brad Cole?
No, RSM is the grant overseers. They're the ones that said, since the city said you are going to designate parking, we need a formal agreement.
And
We don't have a formal agreement, that delays the city getting refunded what we have already paid BKC Properties.
they're okay with having parking spaces that far away from the apartments?
That's what was agreed to.
That's what was agreed to when
Really?
this all started.
Where do you
They're
think?
young people.
Where else would they, yeah, I don't know what else would be a suggestion.
Yeah, because I was going to say, on the other side of the street, that's full all the time when you go by there during the day.
Well, it's private property.
Well, there's some city in there as well.
There's Little City, yeah, but the majority of that is Bank Iowa.
Yeah. Right.
So what part is city in there?
Well,
Where are you talking about?
On the other side of the street, where I thought we were.
Directly, so the parking lot that's right next to the VFW on the east side,
Okay.
those two lines of parking are the city's parking lot, and then the next two lines of parking are Bank Iowa's.
So wouldn't it be closer to put them in here then?
I think this was all decided.
Well, we were
Back-
trying to make sure that we had patron parking
Lisa,
for the
Mayor.
businesses
Sure, Lisa,
that are
come on.
downtown back to.
hold on a second, Brian. Lisa, come up.
Lisa, come on up.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm just confused.
So
I
when
thought
it-
that's where it was.
So when it was first discussed, Al was here, Al Roeder was here. He had talked about, directly behind, not wanting to take city spots away from that parking lot directly behind. Therefore, that's why it was decided to put it in, the city lot that is part of St. John's, where a lot of St. John's people park. And then it was, when you go in, it was going to be as you enter the first 10 spots,
Closest to the road.
closest to the street.
That makes
Yes.
sense.
The southwest corner of that.
On the south side of the parking lot that's closest
My
to St.
understanding was
John's?
it was going to be in the northwest, so that they faced, if you
When
divide the
they-
parking lot in half, they would be the first 10 from the center, from the divider, east. That was my understanding.
On the very north side?
Yep.
Well, that's even further away from
It
where
is,
they
but
live.
No, that was not how I was told, or how it was described to the Coles at the time. Also, it would be right along. they would
Second
be
Street.
Facing, yep, right along Second Street, facing, when they park, they would be facing their building,
Facing south towards,
facing south, yes.
so there's 12 stalls along that edge.
So it would be 10 of those.
Are the-
That was the discussion at the time and when the grant was put in. And just at that time, I was also on just so you know, for St. John's, I was also on the church council at that time, and I explained to them, they understand it's a city lot and they appreciate the fact that they're able to use it. There are some people obviously who feel that it is their lot, it's not their lot, they understand, but the pastor understands that, and as well as the parish council, but that's just a side note. so.
Yeah, we can finish this side conversation.
Brian?
Just as a renter, I would have a real problem with
The height.
having a parking spot. that
When they rent, they're
far
going to know
away.
that. That's not our issue.
Right.
They got a spot and they have to deal with it.
And I think the Coles are talking about providing a spot for unloading. They go shopping, they need to unload. They unload for 15 minutes, half hour, whatever. They go and they park their spot.
Okay.
Well, if there's an elevator, that'll speed up
And
the
yeah,
process.
that'll,
Reduce the average age in town.
Call the question.
And we have the young guys.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
Kill us
yeah,
off.
that would do
is
it.
any
I just did, so I called the question.
Say, no further discussion on that, then let's move forward with the roll call vote on it.
Moore,
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to reports. Council member reports, starting with Catherine.
I don't have anything.
Okay, Mike?
Just a reminder that in about 2 months, we're going to have hopefully our waste amnesty day again, where we take in things that people have trouble getting rid of throughout the year. So I want to put this in everybody's head so that they think ahead and get there, because there's always a lot of, oh, I missed it. So this is an opportunity for people to know about it. And
When is the date of that?
June.
It's on my list.
Yeah,
Oh.
early June, like second week in June, second Saturday in June.
That's the danger you take when you ask everybody else talks about the stuff you want to talk about.
That's right.
Brian?
Nothing there, thank you.
I have two shout outs I want to do. One of them doesn't get talked about a whole lot, and that is our high school. Last weekend, they sent 22 individual speech participants to a state competition. And of those 22, 18 of them received #1 ratings. 3 more received all #2 ratings out of the 22, so that's very good. So a shout out to our school and our speech students. And the other thing is the musical is taking place this weekend at the high school, which the band and the drama department both are involved in. That starts Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
There we go.
Deb, did you have something?
Yeah, just one thing, Triangle Park, which is city property, right? So March 17th at 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I believe, VFW is having a fundraiser and the money's going to go toward a handicap dock for the Triangle Park. So if anybody can participate in that, that'd be great. That's it.
I was just curious, is that a handicap dock, Deb, or is it a fishing dock that's handicap accessible? I didn't know for sure.
The latter.
I seen handicap
That's what I
accessible.
thought. Okay, gotcha. Therefore,
Tom?
You can still use it.
I was just kind of wondering, what do you think the possibility would be if we asked Caitlin Clark really nicely that she would volunteer to be our parade person for the 4th of July parade?
Caitlin
You
Clark,
would have to
Tom?
reach out to the chamber. They're the ones in charge of the parade.
And they've already given away that spot.
They've already given it.
Yeah, for the mayor.
But
No, it's not for me.
wow.
It's for
See, here's another money-making idea that would just,
How many people would come to city
oh,
just to
man,
see
can
Caitlin
you
Clark
imagine?
in person? It would be a revenue maker.
we get Mr. Mum instead.
Huh?
Get Mr. Mum.
Yep.
All right.
A local citizen.
Good thought.
Otherwise, all is well.
Good talk.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Good job, Tom.
Do you want to go?
Nice try with that one, Tom.
He said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing at this time.
You can go or do you want me to? I don't care. I got a list.
You have a list, I'll just do 2 things then. Tomorrow night is the Rotary spaghetti dinner at the high school. Also, we have the child care market study that I mentioned previously, May 6th. They'll be presenting here to council at our work session. And Lisa, we don't know the date for when they'll do the public one.
Well, that will be
Oh,
the public.
Oh, that's right. We're talking about the possibility of on the 6th, because we'd be opening it up to the public, we're talking about the possibility of holding our work session at the high school in the auditorium rather than having it here, in hopes that more people will come and participate or, have the information provided to them, but we're still working on that. I stole your that too?
It's all right. I've just been deleting stuff off my list the whole time. It's no big deal. I did want to point out, I know you guys, the council moved the septic tank issue to the 1st of, I believe we're going to move it to the 1st of April to that work session. It was submitted in time to be on the work session for March, and I missed it. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's on me. That's the reason it was on the agenda tonight with no prior discussion. So,
As we work toward that work session, Matt, could you reach out and make sure that there are no,
yeah, I've got notes to look at the floodplain stuff and do some other things that I want to show you some diagrams and things that, yeah. I had a lady reach out to me about the headstones at Oakwood Cemetery. She wanted permission to go in there and do some cleaning on the headstones and potentially do a fundraiser to raise money for that. She's going to meet with Bob Beatty and myself to talk about the fundraising aspect. I did go ahead and issue a letter to her authorizing her to go in and start cleaning the headstones and doing that. I also asked her to reach out to Tony
Bangstrom?
Thank you, with Buchanan County Assessor's Office down here, because I know Tony was interested in doing some work with that too.
I think the high
So-
school's done some stuff in the past with that.
They do every year.
Well, every year they go out there.
So, but just want to let the council know that I had issued that letter and that that's ongoing. JT from the FFA chapter at the school reached out about the chickens that they're going to have out there. They're going to do a little ribbon cutting ceremony on the 22nd of March at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they would love for anybody from the city council who would like to attend. If
When
you
is
are
that?
planning to attend,
March 22nd?
22nd at 3 o'clock?
yes ma'am, March 22nd at 3 o'clock.
The chickens are going to do the ribbon cutting?
Yeah, they're going to do the ribbon cutting, Tom.
It's a roast.
They're gonna.
They're going to have
they're gonna
Caitlin
peck
Clark
away on the
there.
ribbon
It's going to be
until
all kinds of
break.
fun.
Wow.
If anybody is going, or if you're
What days
planning
that
on
fall on,
attending
do you
that.
know, Matt?
Sorry?
What days that fall on?
It's the 22nd, so I don't, off the top of my head.
That's okay, that's fine.
Friday.
Friday.
2 p.m.,
3 o'clock,
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock on the 22nd. If you are planning to attend that, please let me know.
I
so
will.
We can notice it.
Can we verbally tell you and you remember?
I
or-
would much prefer you email me, that way I make sure that I get it taken care of and I don't forget it. Councilman O'Laughlin talked about Trash Day. We've talked about that. We're working on getting that finalized. Planning right now to have it on the 8th of June. That's the second Saturday in June. Mayor talked about the spaghetti dinner already.
Oh, on the 9th of June?
8th.
8th of June,
June?
second Saturday in June.
Second Saturday.
Yes.
Need volunteers.
Look forward to it.
The only other thing that I was going to bring out, we had interviews for a building inspector last Monday, a week ago. We have made an offer that has been verbally accepted and actually been signed as well. That is now going through the process of all the background, everything that needs to occur for that. But the tentative start date for that individual will be the 28th of March, with the intention to have them come to the April 1st work session to meet the council. So just want to let you know we're working through that and getting close to having somebody hired for that.
Good, great, thank you for the update.
One more thing I didn't mention, I believe it's the 23rd of March. Coles Ace Hardware is having their grand opening of the store itself this Saturday, so. Susie, you have anything? Need a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.